Afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're here to highlight the bill that we've just presented, and that is Senate File 5025. And the point of the bill is in response to what we have been hearing from superintendents and school districts and teachers from across the state. And that is what happened last year. There's so much that's coming at them, especially our small schools, just don't have the bandwidth in order to incorporate all of it in the time frame that they've been given. So the point of the bill is to allow school districts through their school board and a public vote that they would be allowed to temporarily pause any of the new mandates that are out there and any funding that is then tied to those mandates that they're going to push off for up to 3 years would be their ability. They would be able to keep that funding within the school district and use it where they see the most need within their own school district. So this is not repealing any of those mandates. It is just going to allow local school districts that ability to say, we need more time to incorporate this one into our system to make it work here and not lose the funding that might be tied with it. We've been talking about it a lot, that with the $2.2 billion that was given into education funding last year, probably just a little over half either was directly mandated or with some of the other mandates was going to be eaten up for our school districts. And we've heard repeated stories that even with that new funding, schools are having to make cuts this year. And so that's what we're trying to get at with this bill, to allow them that flexibility locally to put off some of these mandates so that they can bring them all in and incorporate them the best that they can in a timely manner without losing any of the state funding that they received last year. So, and with that, I will turn it over to Senator Coleman.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name's Julia Coleman. I represent Senate District 48, which includes Waconia, East through Chanhassen. I don't think that the general public quite understands yet the desperate state of affairs that our schools are facing from the devastating consequences of the mandates that we put on them last year. I have school districts from around the state, not just my own, banging down my doors, begging for help. Because of the mandates, it's like we gave them $100, which Republicans, we love the fact that we put historic funding into our schools, but then we put $150 worth of demands on them, and they ended up worse off than when we began. And I can't even say that these are unintended consequences, because it's not an unintended consequence when you had 33 Republican senators stand up and flag this for you, reading letters and emails from our schools saying, if you pass this, this will be the damage done to our budget. I'm hearing it in my district. I represent some wealthy school districts as well. They're all in trouble. And it's not just me that's noticing this. School groups specifically have asked the legislature to avoid new mandates in 2024 in a letter from March 14th, 2024. It's not just Republicans saying schools need flexibility. The professional organization representing school boards, metropolitan school districts, school administrators, school business officials, rural education associations, elementary and secondary school principals, all of them signed on to a letter saying new mandates in 2024 would negatively impact their budget, workforce, local control, and innovation efforts. And all of these organizations have been in my office asking us to do something about what was passed down onto them last year. It's time for us to get back to reality, to listen to our schools, and to repair Minnesota. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm State Senator Rob Farnsworth. I represent District 7 up on the Iron Range across from Deer River over to Aurora. And I'm here to sort of put a human face or talk about a human face about what our school districts are going through, because I am the only senator and probably one of the few in the entire legislature that actually went back to work in a school this fall. I work for the Hibbing School District, and then, of course, in January, February, I guess, serve in the legislature. And what I saw in the Hibbing School District is a lot different than the message that we're getting about how this historic funding is helping schools. I've been working for the Hibbing School District since 2009, and in that time, since 2009, we have not had to let a teacher go because of the budget. Certainly there have been instances where teachers have not been tenured, but this is the first year And it was heartbreaking that we actually had to let a teacher know, hey, sorry, we can't bring you back. We have to make cuts because of the mandates. So even though there's this historic funding, we're actually having to let teachers go. And so they have to try and find work somewhere else. Almost all of the school districts in my Senate district are cutting. And that's from somewhere in the range of $600,000 to up to $1.5 million. And these are not large school districts. A $600,000 cut from a small school district like Deer River is an enormous cut. And we need to look at repairing this problem that we have. And the bill that Senator Rarick talked about is a good step in that direction.
Any questions?
I would speak to, if people have said specifically certain requirements in the education bill that are the most time-intensive, causing the most headaches, that they'd really like to see this sort of delay for.
Yeah, every school district is a little bit different. Some of the curriculum issues are probably the biggest ones that I've been hearing about. Giving them the time to incorporate the new curriculum mandates into their schedule, giving them the ability to make sure that they've done it right. So I think curriculum is probably the biggest. And then actually some of the discipline issues as well. They want to have some time to be able to develop new plans on how to deal with that. So being able to continue to have some of that discipline authority for now would be good. Again, no funding that is tied to that one, but that's a piece that it could have funding because of the fact that teachers have to stay late, overtime requirements, in order to get these new policies in place. So I think those are two of the biggest that we hear repeatedly, but every school district is kind of has a couple of things that really impact them. Again, a small number of districts. We're starting to have some communication with Chair Kunish, but the school mascot is another one. Where 1 year for the few schools that have that issue needing to change their mascots is just not enough time to make that happen, because that all comes out of their budget. One school that's in my district, they've started running the numbers on that, and I have a bill that to show what the impact is. $950,000 is what they're projecting the cost would be for them to change everything in their school that's affiliated with that mascot, and that would come directly out of their general budget. The fact that they could spread that out or wait 3 years to make that happen would give them a lot of flexibility in order to make that happen. So,
What school is that?
ESCO.
Were those programs that you were just talking about also where the largest cost imbalances are coming from? Obviously, time is a big factor in those ones, but, where are we seeing the biggest issues with funding?
I think some of that, any of these issues that are requiring, curriculum is one, there are others that are requiring them to spend overtime, teachers work longer hours, administration to work longer hours in order to incorporate that. That's what's driving their costs. So I don't know that any one in particular is a bigger impact than others. It's just having so many all at one time. Schools with smaller staff just are unable to incorporate that into their normal day, and so they're working extra hours to make that happen. And that's where the cost really is coming from. So realistically, the bill is just making sure that those costs can be shifted, but it's that ability to pause these mandates for up to 3 years is what's really going to give them that flexibility and ability to make that happen in the long run.
So they could choose at this point not to implement the READ Act, for example, correct?
They could choose to make sure that they would have an extra 3 years to get everybody trained up to that level, yes. They wouldn't have to meet the timeline that's in there. Most of the schools I've talked to feel they can meet that timeline, but yet they also have a concern that teachers that they're going to be hiring over the next year or two probably will not have received that training in college, just like the current ones they have. So I think they would look at it, being able to extend that one out for a year or two would then allow them to bring their new hires into the program as well, and be a part of that, rather than they get everybody else trained, and here, now they have one or two teachers that they have to figure out how to get that training to. So that's how that would help with, around the READ Act, just to help delay.
So the READ Act, the READ Act specifically is gonna be a problem, and so I can talk about the Hibbing School District specifically because I'm there. The curriculum director came and found me the first day of school this year, and she said, we're in trouble. This is gonna cost us, if we have no flexibility in the timeline, this is gonna cost us $170,000 in order to be able to train our teachers, because the READ Act paid for the curriculum and paid for the licenses. Depending on the curriculum that you choose, it's between 60 and 120 hours of training that they'll need. And so you've got to either pay for subs to come in and sub for teachers when they're getting that training, or you have to pay the teachers to come in and do the training in the summer or, on different breaks. Whereas if we were able to push this out for 3 years, they could fit that training into their regular service type of days at the school. So you take Hibbing, which is a mid-sized school district, 170,000, extrapolate that across the whole state. How much are all of these districts having to pay just to meet this one mandate? It's pretty significant.
Does this just put off when you have to spend this money? Just by delaying it for a few years, is the expense ultimately going to be there?
So ultimately, the mandates will take effect for all the schools, every one of them. It's just giving them that up to 3 more years to incorporate that, which makes it, especially like I said, for our smaller districts, it's giving them that ability to bring that in and make the adjustments. So the spending, it's going to continue to be there in the long run for all of these.
Because you're proposing to let them do other things with this money in the meantime, right?
Correct.
So
if-
is that money gonna be there when they need to do these mandates?
Yes, that'll still follow along, the continued funding that was put in place. We're just saying if you pause one of these mandates, you're not going to lose the funding. We see that with a few others. Some of the money that was given to schools last year to bring in some counselors, $40,000 per school. If you don't bring in the counselor, that money goes back. So that's another piece that would be touched by this, that I have 2 school districts that partnered together to bring in somebody that would work between the 2 school districts, and they didn't receive 1 applicant. So they tried, but they're both going to lose that $40,000 because they couldn't even get an applicant for the position. This bill would allow them to be able to keep that money to spend in other areas of need, whether they use it for that purpose or not, because they could pause that mandate. Or that one wasn't a mandate, but they could still use that money under this bill for other areas of need instead of losing it. But yes, the funding that is ongoing in last year's bill for these areas, when they would bring those mandates and incorporate them into their plans, the funding would still be there. They would just, if they reallocated it to something else, they would have to bring it back. But this is giving them some help on some areas of probably like one-time need.
What's magic about 3 years, other than the fact that it's the next chance you have to win the majority back? I mean, you could kill these mandates if you win the election in 3 years.
Right, we just, we picked 3 years in talking to different school districts and folks, kind of trying to get our arms around how long do you need for some of these things, and 3 years is where we kind of landed. Some of the smaller districts would have liked more time. Some of the bigger districts are saying they can probably make it, so we landed on 3 years just because it's, we think it's doable for most all school districts.
So it sounds like a funding problem, so why not request more money for schools as opposed to going this route?
I think we've all looked at the numbers that are out there, and with the looming deficit, there's no ongoing money available to give to schools this year. So, it's what we said last year. We'd have preferred no new requirements. That's what we've been hearing from our school districts for years and years now. So I think that's a discussion we have to have going forward is, what are some of the things we can step away from? And I think, that's another thing that this bill will allow us to look at as well over the next couple of years. If a large percentage of school districts all say we want to pause the same mandates, that gives us the opportunity to ask ourselves, was this mandate one that we want to continue, or should we repeal that mandate because so many people shown that it's gonna be tough to incorporate, or they need more time, so.
Does this allow school districts to opt out of universal free meals?
It does not.
To a
But
separate bill?
this bill only pertains to mandates that came through the education finance bill. So things like paid family leave, earned sick and safe time, even UI, that is not covered by this. This is the mandates around, like I said, the curriculum, things of those nature that were in the education finance bill.
This release says that your bill, it's similar to temporary fund transfer authority previously enacted in 2020. What is that?
Yeah, that was a provision that allowed school districts and school boards to shift money from one fund to another. This is similar, but they're not going to be able to shift money unless they're pausing a mandate and the money was tied to that particular mandate. So if they're incorporating something in that had money tied to it, they can't shift the money away into something else. So the idea of allowing the money to be shifted is by pausing one of these mandates, you're not going to lose funding that was sent to your school back to the state. You can keep that and use it in a flexible way that your district feels would be important.
If I recall properly, that was a request from schools in response to COVID. Because all of a sudden they had all this funding for things that they weren't using because no one was in the school. They were all from home. So we've done this flexibility for them before.
Senator Farnsworth, what's it like going back to school and having everybody in the building coming to you to ask you for all this stuff?
It's a little bit like being a movie star. No, it's, that's part of why I went back, is because I wanted to hear from people. One of the things I want to work on is special ed paperwork reduction, and so I wanted to talk with the special ed teachers. But one thing I wanted to comment about, so you'd ask the question about the 3 years, or somebody back there did. Of course, the 3 years, what I'm being told from my district is, especially with the READ Act, with the civics, the new civics requirement, with the new money management, is that 3 years would provide them enough time, so for instance, the READ Act, to do the training that they need during teacher in-service so that they wouldn't have to pay additional money to do that. The civics requirement would allow school counselors the flexibility to figure out where to fit that class in kids' schedule, same thing with the money management class. And so that 3 years kind of gives them a little bit more time to plan these things rather than maybe having to hire a new civics teacher in order to meet that mandate. So, so it's not just maybe we'll have the majority in 3 years, but it's like this is the time that they need to use the flexibility that they would have, especially with the READ Act, because of the training requirements are so extensive.
Just real quick, are there certain types of districts, maybe rural districts, that are being hit harder by this than other districts? From what you guys?
All of my districts are, or
All of
almost all of
mine.
them. I don't know about
All
around
school
the state.
districts are impacted. I think it's harder on the smaller, I do believe it's harder on the smaller districts that don't have as much staff, because they still have just as much work to do, they just don't have the ability to spread it out.
Well, I think, it's even important to show, we literally have a list up here of all the mandates from just last year that we put onto our schools, and this applies to all of them. And so they're all having to figure out how to do all of this with limited funding, and so they're all struggling. I think that's good.
Have you spoken to DFL colleagues? Are they open to your bill?
You can take that one.
I have had some conversations. I approached the chair before I turned the bill in to make sure she was aware. I've spoken with a few others. They understand. Again, they're not, I have no illusions this is gonna pass this year, but it is something we have to talk about. Our school districts are saying many of these very same things. And so we're bringing this forward to try to raise that awareness. Hopefully we can do something to alleviate all this burden that's been put on our schools. I do believe there are a number of folks on the Democrat side who think this is the right thing to do. It's just a matter of getting the political will to do it, but.
You mentioned having talked to Senator Kunish about the mascots. I'm wondering if she's been open to any of that specific delay in those conversations?
I haven't gotten any specific commitment from her on that, but after, she and I met prior to session starting, and she did submit a bill with a blank appropriation that would provide some funding for the schools that have to change mascots. So I do believe she has heard from the schools and is willing to try something. I'm not sure what that might be. Again, funding, we've all seen the numbers this year. I don't envision there's going to be big targets on education this year. We saw the governor's plan yesterday. There's not a big number there. So I think the delaying it is a reasonable request, and we'll continue to have those conversations with her.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.